Today we are going to talk a little bit more about reportage and also about the kit you need for making reportage. Let's get into it. Hi, my name is Urban Anjar and this is Photography 101. And today we are going to discuss a little bit more about photo reportage. But first, don't forget to like and subscribe. There is also a special playlist for this channel. All the old episodes are collected there, and also some other YouTubers stuff that I feel is interesting and relevant for you. Okay, I suppose I almost from the beginning have been sort of shooting reportage. I just didn't know it was a thing. Then I met this genre on a course about 10 years ago, and I found it useful as a scaffolding for many of the shoots I were doing. But that scaffolding, the overview, the work portrait, the work, the product and the details. And of course those questions: what, why, when, how, where and who. So we work with a series of images. But in some cases I have to ignore or give up on one or a few types of pictures, or maybe come back for them another time. Some persons are retired and they don't work. Some work at places out of reach for your camera. Most work looks too boring on a picture. Maybe you can shoot them doing some hobby or sports, or taking a walk, or having a cup of coffee instead. Much of what you probably already shoot is at least sort of reportage. Parties, excursions, hikes, whatever is sort of reportage, or at least can be. Travel photography, event photography, shooting on holidays, family occasions, or on the kick-off on work is sort of a reportage. Even shooting a wedding is pretty close to reportage, except for that everything is supposed to be glamorous and romantic. You can use that scaffolding as much or as little as you want to make the photography you already do more interesting, both to shoot and to look at. Pro photographers are often very specialized. They shoot, for example, food and not too much more than food. I don't think that kind of specialization is good for amateurs. Try out different genres. Find out what you like and what you are good at. But in case someone asks, don't say, I shoot this and that. Say you shoot reportage. That sounds better. Now to the kit. What do you need to shoot reportage? Well, some kind of camera. Maybe a compact camera. A compact camera is the camera you cannot change lenses on it. Then you can have a camera body and preferably a moderate wide lens. That's around 35 millimeters if you shoot full frame, and around 23 millimeters if you shoot APS-C. And it's a good lens for storytelling, everyday shooting, walking around, but size matters. Some lenses are really big and heavy and maybe not good for that everyday use. If if you want to add something to that kit, I think the first thing to add is a portrait lens. A portrait lens is around 85 millimeters on full frame and around 50, 55, 60 millimeters on APS-C. Good for faces, details. They are often fast, that means letting in much light, and they are good for creating separation, getting the background at least a bit blurry and creating a beautiful bokeh. That's the background blur. Instead of the portrait lens, you can bring a telezoom. It's typical 70 to 200 millimeters on full frame and 50 to 140 on APS-C. And it's a wonderful lens when you need it. And it can double as a portrait lens. So leave the portrait lens at home if you bring a telezoom. But it's expensive and bulky and rather heavy, so may not be something for all of us, and it's of course not for every day. I think I use mine maybe 5 or 10 days a year. If you haven't got one, maybe it's a good idea to rent one and try it out, or maybe rent the days you really need it, if you have got a rental house nearby. Then we have that Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. And sometimes when you're shooting something really important, things break down. So bringing a second body can be a good idea for redundancy. But also sometimes you need to change lenses very fast. And then it's easier to have two camera bodies, one with a wide angle and one with a telephoto lens. And sometimes it's not really safe to change lenses. It could be raining or snowing, or being dusty, or you're in a crowd that moves back and forth. And sometimes it's dark. So you may lose things or break something when you change lenses. So in those cases it's good to have a second body. But sometimes I have used a combination of a camera body with a telephoto lens and a compact camera. That could be a good idea. Ideally, otherwise you should have two identical camera bodies. But practically, I think most will go for 2 or more camera bodies. Keep their old one and buy a new one, or maybe buy one or buy a second one with less features. Sometimes you need to use speed light or studio strobe or something, but that requires some extra training and it's slightly difficult to do well. So I think we save that for a later topic so we can discuss it more thoroughly. But the point with it is that you get sharper images, you get better control and less noise. There are 2 kinds of attitude you can have while out on your reportage. You can be obvious, outgoing, tell jokes, give direction and get some authority as a photographer and instill some trust. You look like you know what you're doing. You can also be a fly on the wall, be a little bit stealth and silent. Maybe be boring so people just go on with their things while you do your thing. Sometimes it could be an idea to try to look like you are incompetent and harmless, like a tourist or something. Which way you choose is of course, by part, something that comes from your personality. But it's better to choose considering the situation. So train on both, and maybe train more on the mode you feel a little bit scary. Okay, this was all for today. See you in the next one. Bye.